GM fam, and welcome to the Leviathan News live stream. Today is Thursday, June 29th. It's the first day of the rest of our lives, and we sincerely hope whatever you're building today becomes the top story on Leviathan News tomorrow. Of course, the last 24 hours has seen a lifetime of action in DeFi and crypto. Apparently, Thursdays are prison casts. German regulators are saying 9 to Binance. In the Battle of the Balds, Coinbase has asserted that Gensler and the SEC lack authority over crypto platforms. And continuing in the TradFi world, apparently MasterCard is planning something called a multi-token network. We'll be discussing if this means there's an airdrop around the corner. And of course, dYdX, which is basically TradFi, is launching a Cosmos testnet with sub 2-second block times. We'll be talking about this, Dolomite, and of course, Curve haters are still debating if integration with the BIS is actually bearish. And for this, we'll have a lot more coverage, so stick around with us in about an hour when Nose, the author of the original thread, will be joining us. We also have a particular Curve expert joining our merry band of reply squids this morning. z:ALunara, who are you? What do you do?
Hi, I'm head customer support of Llama Air Force. Good day.
And what is the Llama Air Force for those who aren't deep into the Llama ecosystem?
I think Llama Air Force is now unanimously known for its union products, which means that if everybody is getting fed up with their amount of bribes, with the convex stuff, I think last round we had like 13 different tokens and nobody wants to swap it. They can just join the union. We swap it for them. We drop them an auto-compounding token and make their life a little bit easier. And besides the union stuff, we also have dashboards with information about Curve, about convex, about the bribes in general. But more about that later, I think.
But recently there was a bit of a schism, right? Like the Llama Air Force dashboard basically split apart between that and the new Curve monitor site.
That's because I think that's what I said, like a joke, that the Llama Air Force is unanimously known for the union. When people say Llama Air Force has a problem or we're excited for Llama Air Force, what they actually mean is we're excited for the union, or we want to integrate the union, or we want to do something with the union or one of the founders. But we actually started before we had the union. We started with a Curve, with a convex dashboard. We also had some Curve dashboards with some Curve stats, and we wanted to expand on that. But we were having the issue that on our website, the interesting nerd data for Curve wasn't getting the attention that it deserved. So we decided to split it off, to just move off these Curve statistics into their own dedicated dashboard application. And as you can see, with all the stuff that's coming up right now on your screen, there just wasn't enough room for that on the original Llama Air Force website. So yeah, there it is, the new dashboard. We didn't really want to release it just yet. As you can see, there's a nice under construction sign there. I placed it in a panic because as it is, I think it was Mitch, the Curve founder, who plotted a graph about Curve USD supply. It's the top right one I can see right now, the Curve USD supply. It was tweeting these MATLAB plots about the supply. And Benny, one of the guys who works with me on these dashboards, was like, can I show our new dashboard, our new Curve USD dashboard to Mitch? Because these ugly graphs annoy me, and we have way better looking graphs. So he asked me, like, can I share this dashboard with Mitch? And I'm like, well, it's not really under construction. I mean, it's still under construction. A lot of things are broken. As you can see, there's a live monitor page in the menu. It says beta, but actually everything is beta. So I was like, sure, but just tell him, make sure that it's beta, that shit's broken, because I don't want people constantly bombarding me with questions like, hey, this is broken, hey, that is broken, this mobile view doesn't look as good on my toaster or on my Game Boy. So I think Benny immediately sent Mitch the link, and about 10 minutes later, this 300,000 followers account tweeted the dashboard, and I'm like, shit, I guess we're releasing it.
You just yeeted it out.
Yeah. Man, z:ALunara, I just have so much respect for everything that you've done for like the Curve ecosystem. And I think that like it's probably fair to call like the Curve Wars, yes, was like built and born out of like what happened on chain, but like none of us know how to look on chain and into the EVM, and all of us kind of understand the Curve Wars first through Llama Air Force, which is like my home base through the last year. But now through kind of like what we're seeing here through the Curve monitor dashboard, like not only are you bringing the metrics to like out of the EVM and into a place where like degens like us can read them, but like with this curve monitors dashboard, like you're going to the next level. And like what I saw you tweet yesterday, which I was super excited about, was I think it was something to the effect of like the effective premium of borrowing Curve USD and then farming it. So like you can see like the yields for. So anyway, can you describe like what kind that metric, and then what kind of advanced financial metrics that you think like the Curve ecosystem could really benefit from?
That's a difficult question. It's difficult because we don't have any advanced metrics planned in advance. We basically are just YOLOing at this point. We have a broad general idea of where we want to go. We want to add some support for the DAO. We want to have a nice overview for the proposals. I mean, there is an overview for the proposals of the DAO right now, but you can't vote. You still have to use the old Curve interface for that. So, for example, we have stuff like that planned, and there's also more details planned about Curve markets individually. You have this nice overview, but you also want to click on the step market, for example, and see the history of that specific market, see the history of the borrow rates, etc. So there's a general broad roadmap in our minds. But the metric we pushed yesterday, that was literally made up that was made up 2 days ago. Benny quickly cobbled something up behind the scenes in the backend on the API. So he just dumps an endpoint to me. He says like, here's the endpoint, here's the data. Can you make something? And I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna make something up. And then there's the premium column. And this has happened several times now over the course of over the course of 6 months. I think we're working on this, but now but it wasn't really visible to the audience or to the public. So all of that stuff was still happening, but it wasn't officially released. So it was easy for me to change because there was no announcement to be made. But now that we are released, I guess I'm just gonna have to announce every little change that I make to the website, or that we make to the website.
I don't know. You're not asking for advice, but in case you want some, what I would do is just put like a skunkworks.curvemonitor.com and then change that as much as you want. And then once a month, you can just like migrate over the stuff you like.
Yeah, maybe.
Excellent. Well, we're so glad we have a qualified Curve expert, because I just LARP as one. Because the top story today is still Curve. Yesterday, we touched on it briefly. And in case you're not able to join us for the nose panel, Ali, it would be great to hear your perspective on the BIS Curve v2 integration. Today, DeFi Llama released a story in which they quoted the CEO of GMEX saying that the DeFi community excitement over the project is warranted. But as we discussed on the show yesterday, it's probably unlikely that nation states are going to be joining the Curve wars anytime soon. So what's your take on this?
As a DeFi native, I think this is great news. It's also a little bit technical, so it's hard to understand what the effects of this could be. But I think that it's really nice to hear. At the same time, I am a little bit pessimistic, and that's because when I look, I've been in this space since like 2013, and then I had a little hiatus until 2017. So I've seen a fair piece of news like this before, and it's like companies and governments are willing to try out the public protocols on mainnet, and they're going to experiment on it. But at the end of the day, they most of the time seem to pivot towards, we're going to use this open source software, but we're going to run a private network, or we're going to use a consortium of enterprise corporations, and we're going to have our own little network. Probably because either they want to keep control, or they want to offer protection in a meme-like way, or they want to make updates, or they want to make adjustments. And I mean, you can ask Mitch about adjustments on the Curve protocol, but they probably want to have full control over it themselves. They want to tell their developers like, oh, can you change it over here? Can you change it over there? And they might want, for some reason, because government always loves blacklists, they want a blacklist somewhere. So it is exciting news to me, but at the same time, there's this feeling inside me that tells me that they're just going to use it for experimentation purposes, and then they're going to pivot to a private consortium or a private network. And obviously, that doesn't work out, because this stuff is made for public mainnets. This is open source. Nobody wants to join another walled city, right? If you're Asia, if you're a country in Asia, you don't want to join some kind of weird private consortium made by Western countries. So that's just not going to work somehow. And then these companies and governments will say, we tried it, but it didn't really work. And then we're back to square one.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it will happen, but I have this nagging feeling that there's a big chance that it might.
Yeah.
But Mitch's company does own the intellectual property behind the Curve V2 algorithms. Is that correct? And if that's the case, if they wanted to mimic it extremely closely, especially out of Switzerland, wouldn't Mitch be able to file intellectual property complaints over it? So it makes more sense for them to kind of team up and do it friendly?
I'm not sure. I think he holds some of the intellectual rights indeed, but a lot of the source code is MIT licensed, if I recall from memory. So it's a little bit hazy. It depends on what they fork and what they make private.
Well, and also, like, I do think that Garrett, your thought might be right and correct for Mitch, but like that is clearly outside of like the EVM and outside of our world, and like good for Mitch, but like that doesn't mean shit for us. And so,
Right.
Alinara, like, I guess let me ask this question from two perspectives. One is like a Curve builder and a maxi, and then two, just as an Etherean. This news, do you see this as bullish, bearish, or irrelevant for Curve and then for DeFi?
I mean, Curve works without them, right? So it's neutral for Curve. It works. It will always work, and no matter what, it will probably keep working. What it does for the Curve price, because probably that's what everyone is wondering about. It would be bullish if the governments would actually use it without a private network on public mainnet, and there's actually volume going through, because volume means fees, and fees means revenue, and revenue means APR, and APR means higher price, yada yada. But the road to that point, I don't know. It might never happen. It might take very long. Personally, I will only believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
Who knows how long that may take.
Well, you're the person who also coined the phrase that, paraphrasing it, like degens only have a 1 week max time horizon. So with governments operating in spans of years or maybe decades, like there's no reason that speculators would really care at this point, right?
Yeah. We'll go through 6 lunas by the time they can get in.
Yeah, actually, there was a Discord post by somebody, I think today, on the Convex Discord, and it was going along the lines like, I thought Curve USD was bullish. Why am I not seeing a rise in the Curve price? But of course, Curve USD is looking like a success. It might become successful, but before you get to that stage, there needs to be more volume, and more volume means APR. And at that point, when the APR goes up, then you might see a price increase. So, yeah. The attention span of degens isn't really too long. So if you're a long-term, and it's actually difficult because if you're a long-term investor in crypto, it's really demoralizing, because we live in a crypto bubble, and about 90% doesn't look at the long term. They say that they are long-term, but they keep complaining about today's price, and it's really demoralizing, because there's so much noise. What do you call it? The noise ratio is so high. So if you're a builder and you want to focus on building, it's so hard to escape the negativity that goes on right now as a builder. Yeah. You want to focus, but you keep getting distracted by, oh God, there's another dump, which is also at the same time your income. So it's really hard to see your income evaporate. Well, in the backhand, behind the scenes, stuff is happening. Yeah. Builders are building. It's really, if you only look at the development that's going on, it's a really bright future. So it's really weird to see at the same time that everybody is being a doomer about the price.
Totally agree.
Yeah,
it's like two different worlds.
Alu, isn't it, but in a way, easier to be a builder now? Because like there's kind of less noise and expectations when prices are like that, and many actors are basically sidelined, and like builders can build more quietly at the moment.
I think that builders were always building, but you just didn't see it because of the hype of the bull market. So now that the tourists are gone, and you can look who is left behind building, it's pretty much the same people that have been building over a couple of years. And maybe some extra, because over time people are getting interested, so the amount of developers might be increasing. What might be more difficult, though, is getting funding. In the bear market where prices are going down, there's a lot less funding. So if you want to go full-time DeFi, if you want to go for a protocol if you want to be full-time building on a protocol and you need seed funding and you need an income, you need to be able to pay rent as a full-time crypto dev. Yeah, that's going to be a little bit harder because it's just harder to find funding as liquidity is exiting the market.
Yet there's also quite a lot, there's less competition at the moment for this funding because, so like you said, like the real builders, they've always been building and they will keep building. But the grifters, they're pretty much not around. And when bull market comes, the grifters they quickly join.
The grifters are definitely still around.
They are still around.
Definitely. I disagree. Definitely not as much. Like I don't know if you remember what's going on the bull market. It's been a while ever since, but the signal to noise ratio, like Alu referred yesterday, I think it's so much easier now to get actual signal and not just noise than on a bull market.
Well, that is true. We've gone from like 10 rug pulls in a week to maybe 2 rug pulls in a month. That's true.
Yeah. So one of the companies that's building is, in fact, MasterCard. They announced yesterday that they plan to continue their crypto foray with the beta launch of what they're calling a blockchain app store. So, again, we were kind of just discussing, like, what does it look like when the institutions arrive, and are they going to be using private chains and whatnot? Is this basically going to be a private MasterCard chain?
I mean, tough to tell, like, from a press release, but, like, I think... I could totally imagine an app store from MasterCard where like they allow you access into Curve, they allow you access into GovCurve, like the whatever permission fork. Like, I mean, I think the app store model is like totally appropriate for how like fintechs and like non Web3 companies like start to approach Web3, and so I don't know. I mean, like TBD on what this actually means, but like seems bullish. Seems like MasterCard is offering access to at least some portion of what we're building.
But what does this give users?
What
are they building a network for? Is it for retailers? Is it for the shops themselves, or is it for people to use?
Why are you asking these questions?
Like, why are you looking for facts?
Alu, why are you keep looking for facts?
No, I mean, there's already existing MasterCard infrastructure. So I'm looking for the thing that they're trying to improve on. So is it because there are a few off-ramps? For example, I'm using a couple of virtual card providers, which I can top up with crypto. Sure, it's not decentralized, but the thing is, what I can do is I can have like a $100 million on chain, and then I can just top up my virtual credit card with $1,000, and sure, it can get rocked like Celsius, but that kind of works already as well. So if that works good enough for retail users, then you don't need a private network or a separate chain yourself. So this has to be between companies or enterprises, right? Or for shopkeepers, because users might already be able to use it.
Press release states that the first round of apps will be powered by what they call tokenized bank deposits. So we get a sense that this is going to basically be MasterCard allowing some integrations with various bank experiments into crypto.
Yeah, look, I very much, I very much believe that Ethereum is inevitable, and like long term, this is like means, I don't know what it means other than burning ETH, and so I'm bullish on it, right? But I think that short term, like that we're, to Alunara's point, like we've seen this play out a bajillion times before, and what's going to happen is literally the exact same thing that happened with Quorum, and now is called Onyx, which is you take the original tech that's public, you fork it, you make it private, it like kind of works, kind of doesn't, and so like you run these experiments, and like if we're talking about tokenized bank accounts, then what this means is that, to Alunara's point, they're going to allow merchants, businesses to like probably just take debt positions against their tokenized bank balance. Like we all know exactly what the tech is capable of today. Like reading between the lines, like I don't know what else they could be offering. And like I think it's cool. I'm glad people are experimenting. I think this is like not something to build into your investment thesis today, but just at the same time that everyone is telling you that, like your mom and your banker and everyone telling you like crypto is illegal and you're about to be kicked out of the country and all this stuff, like everyone who matters in this industry, in the finance industry, is like leaning in. So take what you will from that.
Yeah, I don't know what it will do, but it's a positive thing from a branding perspective. That's for sure. it's getting
Their,
legitimacy.
their brand and our brand.
Sure.
I think both the curve with the BIS news and both this and some other stuff that we've seen the past few days, I think it relates to what Rex usually says, that until these entities and these like huge walls of money really start watching us and treating us as an infrastructure that is relevant and they can work with. True adoption and our actual scaling only comes when they come. Like it doesn't come before that. I just think it's going to be a very long process of playing with it. I think we have in my opinion, I think there's like a whole generation of they will come in the next few years. They will create the usual mess, like the TradFi mess, and only after that, I think when a lot of people will be crypto users, and they will there will be much more awareness about all the issues and problems that crypto solves, then only on the next cycle, after they're in, we can really start talking about the actual importance of decentralization, not because it's not important now, but because so few people relatively know about it. And 10 or 15 years from now, after the next mess, many people will know about it.
Yeah, and look, I think a different perspective, and we've been through this before. This is not new, but I think that decentralization, except for Ethereum, does not matter. And I think that the future could be that every single app and whatever that's built on top of Ethereum is centralized. And I think that's a win and an incredible world, and a world in which Ethereum has won. And so either way, I don't know which route we're going down, but MasterCard getting involved is good either way.
Another protocol that doesn't really pretend that much to be decentralized is dYdX, which just launched their own app chain on Cosmos. So are there any cosmonauts here that can talk about what this means?
Okay, was that a sufficiently funny
Anyone?
Sure.
I guess not. All right. Anyone? Has anyone ever used dYdX? I'm in America, so I'm not allowed to.
I
Maybe
think I
DeFi
lost
Advisor?
some money with it, yeah.
Did either of you, Alu, DeFi Advisor, anyone get the Wenmoon get the airdrops from dYdX like a year ago that Gensler
No,
detected?
I missed out. I only used dYdX when I wanted to long curve like a year ago or a couple months ago. That was pretty difficult. I wanted to long curve because reasons, and there was just no way to on-chain long a shitcoin like curve.
I
I had to resort to centralized stuff like Binance or Bybit, or I think Bybit is a popular one. But me, as a DeFi maxi, I was like, where do I long this on-chain? And I couldn't find a good answer, so I had to resort to dYdX and GNS back then. And that's about it.
I think for me, it's I've always been okay. If I want to be centralized, and I do use centralized, and I do use decentralized. But if I want to be decentralized, I'll use the one that's actually decentralized. And if I want to use centralized, then I'll use Bybit, right? Or I'll use Binance or whatever, right? What is the point of going halfway between having a worse experience, not also being decentralized, whatever, right? And I also have never touched Cosmos, so. And I don't really care to. It's just another chain for my taxes. I don't care.
As a reply guy that's not ever developed on Cosmos or anything, but I never saw the appeal of app chains, because as a developer, you have a front end, you have a back end, you have customer support, you have marketing, you have taxes, you have corporate shit. Do you really want to have the additional complexity of fully maintaining a app chain on top of the shitload of work you already have? It's so much work, and to have to manage and maintain an app chain on top sounds like, no please, I already hate to have my service up and running.
Well, doesn't Arbitrum kind of help with this now? With Nick came yesterday and he was talking about how Arbitrum can help you make your app chain on Arbitrum, have your L3 or your L25 if you want it. I mean, yeah, of course it's more technical debt, but for someone like dYdX, obviously with a centralized limit order book, having used Arbitrum, even with low fees, whatever chain of your choice. I don't know what the fees are like on the usual chains that Kronos uses, but all of that kind of comes down to okay, we need something very, very quick, we need something very, very cheap, And Ethereum is not that. That's why GMX isn't built on Ethereum. That's why it's
Sure,
built on
but you're trading off decentralization for speed and efficiency and costs, and that's fine. That's sure. But you're now stuck in the middle of a road between a normalized, cheap, centralized solution and a expensive, non-scaling, decentralized solution. But
Yeah,
you're like a jack of all trades, but a master of none. And I don't know if you want to be in that situation. Like,
No, no,
if you're
no.
gonna sacrifice this decentralization, why not just embrace full centralization and just go with AWS?
Thank you. Right. Like, this is dYdXer. Like, this is exactly like the type of stuff that I am thinking about when I say that the grifters have not left, because like, I think that we get so lost in like this like highfalutin ideals about like decentralization and like the things that we just want to be relevant, that like at the end of the day, like, why are you bothering with Cosmos? Like, if you want like a sovereign space to build your thing, like AWS is just easier and faster and cheaper, but you choose Cosmos so that you can call yourself a decentralized blockchain, right? Like, that is the Do Kwon play. Like, we're seeing that with some other Ursine based chains. Like, it's just like, the tech is so complicated and so like far out on the risk and the innovation curve that it's so easy to like really trick people into like thinking that what you're doing is not I mean, what is dYdX? It's literally a perp exchange where they just like, it's a centralized server and then they just post the results on Cosmos, which isn't even a chain. Like,
First of all, I'm not supporting Cosmos. I've never used it. I've never touched it, nor the dYdX. I'm not even talking about that. What I said earlier, and I agree with your point, by the way, that there's a lot of a decentralization theater is not really better than a centralized
worse, in
entity.
my opinion.
I agree. On many aspects, it works. When I was referring earlier to grifters, like I remember DeFi Summer. Like, guys, the amount of dumb stuff that was bombarded, like as a simple user, filtering is so much harder when there's when the bull market is in and everyone is trying to like convince you and everything like looks so euphoric and stuff. And I think that the amount of actual grifters in a bull market is like 90% more. I'm not saying that right now everyone in the space is an honest builder and everything is good, but I do think that percentage-wise, for sure, and I think it's much easier for now, for example, to get to know people like real builders like Alu. Just like you guys, I'm focused on Ethereum, and personally for me, mostly Arbitrum, the stuff that I care about. And of course, there's a lot of grifting going on there as well, but honestly, I don't think it's the same amount as a bull market, and I definitely don't think that all apps are there. Like, I don't really think that only Ethereum itself should be decentralized, and the rest doesn't matter. And I think actually I kind of learned that stuff from you, because like you said, like if a specific scaling solution has a centralized sequencer, then what did we even do here? But if they really want to improve and like they will do it with time, then I don't want to like Arbitrum. It is not perfect, but yeah, I kind of I trust my money on Arbitrum better than I do on Binance, for example. So there are different levels to this, I think.
Yeah, so it sounds like the reply squid consensus is that there's going to be some need for centralized exchanges, some need for decentralized exchanges. They both have their place. But one place where you might not be able to use a centralized exchange is Germany. Our Deutsch friends are perhaps going to be unable to use Binance after their BaFin, which is their regulatory authority, has denied Binance a crypto custody license. So, Alu, you're the closest to Germany here. I believe maybe Wenmoon, maybe DeFi Advisor. I know it's not Rex and I, but for some of the people like who are a bit closer to the situation, like what's your take on the kind of regulatory environment in Europe?
And also, sorry, can you help us Americans understand like how important Binance is to Europe?
I actually got an email about like 2 or 3 weeks ago about Binance shutting down in my country as well, which is not Germany. And I'm like, oh, right, there's Binance here as well. I think all 10 users will be devastated.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, because from America, it kind of looks like Binance is the casino where it all happens, and we just don't get to play.
Wait, Alu, what? Since you're Europe, what centralized exchanges do you and everybody around you use?
I think there's three. There's two main ones, and then there's a special one. So the most obvious one is everybody's using Coinbase. I think.
Oh, cool.
Whenever I speak to people outside in the normal world, they always use Coinbase, and they don't use Coinbase Pro, but they use the normal Coinbase.
Yeah.
I personally had a lot of issues with them with KYC. Like every 2 months in a year, they wanted me to upload my passport again, and it didn't accept.
Yeah. Oh
And
my
once,
god.
yeah, and it didn't accept me once. So I was sending them an email. I was trying to contact the customer support. I'm like, yo, it's not accepting my passport, which it did 20 times before. And it took them half a year to reply. So in that half year time, I moved to Kraken, which is like the second most popular exchange, I think, in Europe. Kraken. They also because of the big euro market. I think of Coinbase. I haven't used Coinbase for a long time, but I don't think I, as a European, can buy with USD. I have to use their walled-off European market. So I can't trade on USD ETC, USD BTC, or USD ETH, but I'm forced to trade on our euro markets. And I don't think that's the case with Kraken, but I don't use it that often. And then the third option is the US is a single market. So if you have one company in one state in the United States, there's a big chance everybody in the 49 other different states will use the same company. But Europe is a mess. So Germany has like 3 national exchanges just for Germans. I keep seeing Dutch exchanges popping up. I think we have like 4 or 3 different Dutch trading exchanges for crypto. And every time I'm like, this doesn't really scale. You're not going to get more than maybe 1,000 users because Europe is just too fragmented.
Yeah.
I think Spain also have their own fragmented local exchanges. They're all really small. And that's what some people also use if they don't use Kraken or Coinbase.
Yeah, local markets definitely exist. Like here in Israel, like mostly people use Binance. Yet for sure, many people, they don't trust Binance. They trust the local exchanges because even though it's like very small niches and audiences, like people will want like the people owning those exchanges, even the local ones who are like in your terms, these are like miniature exchanges. It's still for them. It's quite a lot of money that they're making. So I don't think this local scene of exchanges throughout the world, I think it's going to remain for quite a long time.
Yeah, and you can see like even for a company like Binance, instead of trying to do it the correct way or trying to settle, they'll just decide that it's not worth the trouble or the time or the cost, and they're just going to say sayonara. We're not going to settle in Germany anymore, not for those 10 users. The local exchange can take care of those 10 users.
So also the local exchanges have a much easier communication and sometimes connection with the local banks. So it plays to that as well.
Well, thanks for providing us burgers a little bit of information about the scene over in Europe. To give you some context on the scene over in America, you mentioned Coinbase. They just issued their response to the SEC, where they went with a pretty aggressive defense. They were basically stating throughout this like massive document, which I don't know if anyone read because it's so long, that the SEC lacks authority over cryptocurrencies on its platform. So they're basically taking like perhaps the boldest possible stance, it seems like. Obviously, none of us are lawyers, so this makes us uniquely qualified to give reply guy takes on this.
You dumped this in GPT-4?
I tried, but GPT-4, despite saying that they accept longer documents, won't take it. And if you try and browse with Bing, it's not able to read PDFs, so I have to like paste it in piecemeal.
Just go find the summary section and summarize that.
So we'll just have to wait for the inevitable Adam thread.
Yeah,
exactly. Which is also too long to put in GPT.
Yeah. Somehow the Adam threads are longer than the original documents.
Yeah, it's maybe 177 thread, 177 pages.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't have any takes on this. Like the legal battle continues.
That's your job. Your job is
right.
Underinformed takes.
Fuck everyone.
For?
Good,
but it was my
good government.
Okay, wait. This. Okay, so they are taking the most. Okay, fuck everyone. Fuck everything. Fuck you guys. Take and 177 pages of this shit. Number one, that's pretty insane, right? Like you don't get replies this long usually. They are usually long, but 177 pages is pretty insane. I have not read it, so yes, no reply guy takes here, but you know, it's they are really going out with the swords. You know, they're like really fighting this shit on the ground. And I think everyone in the industry is if you hate Coinbase, if you don't like, if you love it, whatever it is, we're happy that something's happening, right? Because now what's going to happen is they're going to have to give another reply to this, right? What do they say to this take that Coinbase presents to them? Who knows, right?
Yeah, I mean, what they'll say is like, well, fuck you, we do have jurisdiction. And then like it continues. But like when I think you're totally right that like it would have been totally valid and sad for us, but totally valid for Coinbase to just be like, you know what? We don't really want to deal with this. We're just going to settle for whatever amount of money you want. And we'll just say that we're not going to like, we'll only like allow people to trade BTC and ETH. And like, maybe we won't even allow them to withdraw it. And like, that's the cost of staying in business. And, like that is a way this could have played out. And so, what I say what you will about Coinbase, but we all owe a lot of debt of gratitude to Brian Armstrong.
Yeah, I think Brian keeps showing that he really cares about decentralization. By the way, for me, like the number one on that front is Jesse Powell from Kraken. Like Jesse literally called, I think it was over a year ago. I know when it was, when all kinds of stuff were going on in Canada, actually. And Jesse said back then, like, I will not be able to make sure that you guys are that your money with us is safe. So he literally called people to take care of their own money and put it in self custody. And I think that both him and Brian, with now a firm approach against that, like these are idealistic people. And I think it's extremely important that they show resistance, that they don't turn the other cheek again and say, okay, whatever, just don't be mad at us, just don't say that we're doing something illegal, because the regulator will never stop. Like you have to put the boundary somewhere and to really defend your case, at least try. And I think it's very nice to see that. And I also hope that the community will get some kind of a spark out of it and maintain this fighting spirit, because we're at the fighting stage now. Like we have to fight for what we believe is right. We can't just roll over and say, oh no, please just don't be mad at us, just don't say that we're criminal. If we know within ourselves that we are not criminals, we should act like people who are not criminals and try to defend our case.
Good point. Good point. So basically, we can all sleep easy at night knowing that Coinbase is going to fight while we can just sit and do our degen activities. So let's bring it back on chain, because I feel like we've been doing nothing but talking about all the centralized stuff. But yesterday, a friend of the show, Dolomite, announced that Pendle's PT GLP is now being supported. And you might say, why is this news? Why did Leviathan, which does a pretty good job of curating headlines, decide that this was newsworthy? Wen Moon, could you explain this for us?
Yeah, sure. So I'm gonna be bold and say I think this is the first time that on chain we've seen fixed income derivatives or any fixed yield derivative of any product be used as collateral, right? So this is pretty innovative in and of itself. And if not, okay, fine, whatever. It's at least Pendles. I'm pretty sure I've never heard of one unless you guys have. Right. So what does this essentially mean? It means that, anytime you're so in this specific case, you have GLP. As you've seen in the last month or so, GLP's yield has gone up and down and up and down and up and down. And the reason is, and I can kind of dig into the reason a bit, it's because of the technical implementation of the way that they do fees, right? They don't sort of stream any unrealized fees. They don't make anyone pay any unrealized fees until somebody closes the position, which is why someone like Andrew Kang isn't everyone looks at Andrew Kang and thinks, why is he this guy so bad for GLP? He's not really that bad because he's not really that good of a trader, but hot take there. But like the problem is that he keeps his position open for so long that he's never paying the fees, but he's owing a lot of fees. So, you know, GLP is taking a huge amount of risk, but not getting paid for that risk, right? So you're getting like a trader P&L, because that's realized in GLP price, but you're not getting the yield that you're owed from these fees that Kang is paying or anybody else is paying, right? I'm using Kang as an example. So PT is already awesome in the regard that like it allows you to kind of fix your yield over a whole year, pretty much of an expiry, right? So you can be, for whatever reason, right? You think maybe you want to hedge your yield, and it's like, I think trading at 16% right now, but we locked in some of our treasuries GLP at like 19%, which I'm pretty happy with, right? 19% GLP, I can lock that in for a year. That's pretty awesome. But the problem obviously becomes that this position, you don't know where it's going to be trading in a couple months. And if I need liquidity, what will happen? So the best way to get liquidity is always to borrow. And now Dolomite allows that. So we can use that PT as collateral, take out a loan, get whatever we need, do whatever we need. And I mean, obviously the next best thing that everyone wants to do is to leverage that, right? So usually with any sort of yield farming, leverage yield farming, you have a variable and a variable rate, right? Because you're paying a variable rate to borrow, and you've got a variable rate that you're like leverage farming through. I don't know an example, but let's just use GLP, I guess, right? If I want to leverage GLP, I don't know what I'm going to be earning. Let's say like Jones's product, right? Jones's leverage GLP goes from like sometimes 20% APY to 113% APY, right? Pretty crazy, pretty like out there. How do we like get this? If you don't want to have that risk of what am I going to be paid, you can lock that in and still borrow and leverage. And, you know, you can have this like completely fixed yield, you know, you'll be getting for a year. I think it's pretty awesome. There are some more even crazier stuff you can do with it in terms of yield curves. Now, you know, Tien came on talking about yield curves a little bit. Those are going to be really awesome. But yeah, I think it's pretty innovative. Hopefully Dolomite lists more collateral, not just GLP's PT, but other PTs, especially ST-ETH, right? I think ST-ETH, if you can get like 7 years worth of staked ETH yield completely locked, now that's pretty sick, right?
Sounds like
Yeah, no, I mean, I think like when I think it, like we started this conversation before the stream, and I was the one who was like, wait, why is this news? And so I very much like, the more you talk about it, the more I'm understanding that like this is really marking you know, a real step into a new era of DeFi. And like what I see is like really about composability and about structured products and about building you know, this like layer of programmable money that was like in the last cycle, it was like very theoretical and very young. And like the furthest we could get is basically like locking one token or maybe like the convex curve construction. And so, you know, I think great things of Dolomite. I think great things of GMX. Definitely not financial advice. I'm not invested, and I'm not planning on investing in either. But like, I just think that it's really good to see that as we're moving forward, these protocols are not only thinking about how to build better products, but they're thinking about how to build a better, more connected DeFi. And like that means like more expressive things for users. So great.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the you know, DeFi, there's two parts of DeFi: the decentralized and the finance. And this is a new step in terms of finance, because you know, we've had these sort of things that you can do. You can have your fixed yield instruments in TradFi, but you know, it hasn't been popular. It hasn't been really utilized in DeFi that much. Now it has, I think, since like November last year, pretty much. Because people do start to care about, like, I mean, think about it like this, right? In the bull market, when you're earning 10,000% APY, who cares if you're earning 10,000 or 20,000 or 30,000, right? You're still earning 5 digits, right?
Mhm.
But when it's about like the difference between and in GLP's case, 50% APY to like 10%, now that's a really, really big difference, right? That's one that it really does matter for you to lock in. Just think about how many times you might have wanted to go on to like Curve and LP a single LP, but you are just scared that that you might dilute the yield might go down. None of those problems have to matter anymore as long as you have your counterparties in these markets, allow for that to happen.
One from what you're explaining, it seems like this is setting up the ground for much bigger financial actors to start participating, because they don't want the degen style of DeFi. They want like a much more sane type of DeFi, and it feels like they have a much bigger chance of being interested in such products than what we're accustomed to.
Yeah, I think just to quickly say that's a great point, right? I think the guys who the institutions, quote unquote, or whoever you want with big money, real money in DeFi, they do care about this sort of stuff. They do care that their income is fixed. They do care that they're hedged, and this is how they do that.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, let's take a short break. Squids, quickly squid your way outside, touch some grass with your monstrous tentacles.
Change your ink.
Then join us again just a few minutes, because we're going to talk a bit more about the Curve BIS with the person who started it. The Great Nose is going to join us, the person who did the initial announcement thread. So very exciting stuff. So take care, and we'll see you next tide.
I can't find the button.